Toka and Jamai, warm greetings everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Keeping Native Language Alive During a Pandemic. Next slide. This webinar is made possible by the Administration for Native Americans. ANA strives to promote self-sufficiency for Native Americans by providing discretionary grant funding for community-based projects and training and technical assistance to eligible tribes and Native organizations. We have 5 grant programs under ANA available to Native communities. ANA's vision is that all Native communities are thriving. Next slide. Today's webinar is hosted by the Alaska Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, and we are glad that you could join us to learn about these programs. My name is Larry Kairaiuak, and I'm the Technical Assistance Manager for the Alaska Region. And I'm fortunate to be assisted by Dina McIntyre, the Training Manager, who is running the slides for us. Next slide. ANA's Training and Technical Assistance Centers offer free trainings, technical assistance, webinars, as well as useful tools and guides to assist you in preparing applications to ANA and supporting projects once funded. Other ANA training and technical assistance centers across the country include the Pacific Region, Western Region, and Sister Sky, who assist our native language programs. In today's webinar, you will learn about the Unangam Tunuu Achisalak, Teaching Our Native Language, a program that the Aleutian Pribilof Island Association has been running since 2009. The goal of today's webinar is to learn how APAI is creating a cohort of Unangam Tunuu teachers and how they keep the language moving forward during the current pandemic. Next slide. At this time, I would like to introduce our guest speakers. Darling Anderson is the project coordinator for the Aleutian Pribilof Island Association, teaching our Aleut language project, and Nikkita Shellikoff, project assistant. Darling is Unangam from Falls Pass, Alaska, born to Teresa Smith and late Charles Anderson. Darling spent her summers growing up in Falls Pass and went to school in Anchorage. After high school, Darling earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Rural Development with a concentration in Indigenous knowledge and community research. Since graduating, Darling has been working with the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association as a cultural heritage coordinator. Her primary focus has been the Unangam Tunuu program that API has been running for many years. Darling did not grow up around fluent Unangan speakers, but has always wanted to learn Unangam Tunuu. Through her work at APAI, she has been able to increase her fluency in the Atka dialect of Unangam Tunuu and continues to learn and teach the language. Nikkita Shellikoff, Unangam from Alaska, Falls Pass, Alaska also. Nikkita grew up in Falls Pass and moved to Anchorage for high school in 2009. She works for the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association as Cultural Heritage Programs Assistant. Her primary focus has been the Unangam Tunuu program and learning and teaching the Eastern dialect of the language. Next slide. Unangam Tunuu Achisalak, Teaching Our Aleut Language, is the Administration for Native Americans funded project that the Aleutian Pribilof Island Association has been running since 2019. The Unangam Tunuu Achisalak project focuses on creating Unangam Tunuu teachers through a teacher cohort. This cohort works to learn from fluent Unangam elder speakers, create new lessons, teach those lessons, and attend trainings in the spring and the fall. Once a certain fluency level is acquired and other requirements are met, the teachers are certified through the Unangam leadership, the APIA Board of Directors. Darling Anderson, project coordinator, and Nikkita Shellikoff, project assistant, will be sharing the project's effort in maintaining the progress and the adjustments made during the global pandemic to ensure that Unangam people in Anchorage, those residing outside of Alaska, and the 13 remote communities several hundred miles away are engaged in learning Unangam Tunuu, the Unangan language. If you have questions or comments, please use the chat and we will read them at presentation. Welcome to Darlene and Nikkita.
So ang husuchik kalach Unangam Tunuu ilan Chngatux asaktukuk ama amilam Tunuu ilan Darling Anderson asaktukuk is namilagan and ichtukuk Anchorage ilan anagagizak Unangam ulak ilan awazak. Kalach, good morning everyone. It's good to see you. My English given name is Darling. My Unangak name is Chngatux. My family and I are from False Pass, Alaska. I currently live in Anchorage and work here at the Aleutian Pribilof Islands Association as the Cultural Heritage Coordinator and the Project Coordinator for our current ANA grant.
Ang Unangam Tunuu ilan Chuqudakuchax asakta cooking, amalam Tunuu ilan Nikkita asakta cooking, isnam ilan akakta cooking, taga Anchorage ilan tanagi cooking, Unangam ula ilan awada cooking. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nikkita Shellikoff. My Unangam name is Chuqudakuchax. I'm also from False Pass. I also live out in Anchorage. I'm a Cultural Heritage Programs Assistant for APIA and Project Assistant for our ANA grant.
So just a little background, APIA has had some ANA grants in the past. So in 2015 to 2018, we had an ANA grant that focused on really creating more language learners. And just like many Alaska Native languages or indigenous languages, we've seen a huge resurgence in people wanting to learn the language. But at the same time, I'm not sure if everyone's aware about APIA covers the Aleutian and Pribilof and the Alaska Peninsula area as a tribal nonprofit for 13 tribes in the region. And so we do cover a large area. Our main building is here in Anchorage. So that's why Nikkita and I are here, but we do work with language learners in our region. So even before the pandemic, we were already kind of using Zoom and other virtual ways of working together. Our current ANA grant, Unangam Tunuu Achiga Salih, teaching the Unangak or Aleut language, is our 3-year ANA language preservation and maintenance grant, and we are currently in year 3. So we started in 2019, and the whole premise of the grant was creating this cohort program that would become permanent through APA, in which we were kind of already continuing with the work we've been doing with getting learners to learn the language while working with fluent speakers. Unfortunately, Unangam Tunuu is only known fluently by less than 100 people, but we do have a large group of learners, and every year it seems like there's more. So in year 1, we primarily focused on creating these requirements. What does it look like for this program? What can we piggyback off of what we already created? And then recruiting cohort members. Currently in year 3, we have 23 cohort members, and some of them, due to the pandemic, have chosen to stay on the cohort, but are not currently working actively with language, just because there's been so many changes in the last 2 years. And that has made us really flexible with trying to figure out how to teach the language. In year 2, we plan to continue cohort support. A huge part of this is our teacher trainings, which we work with the Where Are Your Keys consultants in the spring and fall, and then also doing a download camp, which is just like a really concentrated language camp in 2 communities, and then a summer language intensive. And then in the year 2 is certifying our first cohort members, which did not happen because a lot of our activities were delayed. And now in year 3, we similar activities continuing supporting our cohort, continue those teacher trainings, which have gone virtual, and then the download camps and the language intensives, or certifying more cohort members, and then creating a permanent program through APIA. So a lot has changed since the COVID-19 pandemic. So our project start date was July 1st of 2019, and first year really we didn't have a lot of travel planned into it other than our spring and fall trainings. So we got in our first training in the fall winter time of 2019 with people traveling to consultants coming to Anchorage, Atka, and St. Paul. But then, of course, March 12th, 2020 was the first case of COVID-19 in Alaska, and a huge portion of the funding from ANA for our grant was to bring community members to Atka, bring our consultants to Atka, to St. Paul, to Anchorage, and then have these large gatherings in King Coben, Unalaska, which none of that has really happened. So we've had a huge pot of funding that for travel, which most people know traveling in rural parts of Alaska is extremely expensive. So it was a lot of money that we've had to do a carryover budget from year 1 and year 2. And each year we thought by now we would have been traveling, which is not the case. We have had a lot of travel restrictions in our region, just like every community is making their decisions, and it seems to be changing. And then same thing for our organization, APIA. As you can see, Nikkita's teleworking, but I'm in the office. So we've been kind of all really balancing different schedules. Before the pandemic, we did have in-person language teaching, language learning, language gatherings. Every Thursday evening, we would have an Unangam Tunuu community night here at APIA. We haven't had one of those in over a year. Of course, we're really trying to protect our elders, who are the people we learn from, so we haven't been able to meet with them in person. Really switching to a virtual setting, and then all this money left over and trying to figure out what to do with it and how to work with that. So as you can see, like on the left here was one of our language nights. We had a really good schedule. We had a structure to it. Singing, doing games are not all things we really do on Zoom anymore. So we really had to switch our focus and how we taught things from in person to virtual, like you see on the right there, working from so many places. Like our consultants are in Canada, we're here in Anchorage, we have our other community members in Sandpoint, Atka, Chicago. So it has had some benefits to being able to work with people all over. So we have had to change a lot of those things. And thankfully, though, one of the things about working in our region is that we were already working with people, 1,000 miles away in Atka, and already we were using Zoom a long time before a lot of people were already using Zoom, because it did work well with people in our region. So we did kind of have a heads up on knowing how to do some of these things online, but we never really saw having to teach lessons completely online, having to test things with speakers, try and pull language from fluent speakers. That was always an in-person kind of activity. And a lot of our lessons, if people are aware of like the Where Are Your Keys, a lot of the lessons that we teach use props and use, placement is important, pointing to things that are right in front of you, or are they over there, using the right words for those, don't always come across very easily on Zoom. So we've had to do a lot of practice, and it took a lot of time to really figure that out. So one of the things, actually, share just a quick clip of one of our lessons like we did last Monday, and it's just a quick example of how we've been teaching online with people all across Alaska.
So this will be the actual lesson. We'll do a model, and then we'll send around the short bit real quick. And hold on. Need to switch these. Okay. Chuqudakuchax. One keen yabluka all.
One yablukang ako.
Okay, let's do that 3 times. One keen yabluka all.
One yablukang ako.
One keen yabluka all.
One yablukang ako.
Oh.
All right. And that's just a really quick example of one of our lessons, how we do it using presentations. We've had to do a lot of learning from this experience of what does it look like for what we've been doing for so many years, because I've been learning since 2017 to teach with this really hands-on method, bringing elders into the building, going to them and working with them in person. We have had to learn a lot from what does that look like, and we've had to do a lot of outreach trying to collaborate with as many people as possible, and really finding ways that we can bring these lessons now that we are virtual. Because one of the things we used to say is, we didn't want to go in a direction of teaching just online before, but now that we know how to do it, we've been able to bring a lot of these lessons into our communities from Anchorage or into people like Nikkita has some learners in Massachusetts. I work with some people in Chicago, or all the way on Atka. So it does broaden the people we're able to work with. And it has also increased our ability to collaborate digitally. And so one of the things that we've been working on recently is we were working through using Dropbox a lot, but we found out that for our learners in Atka, their internet capabilities work better with Google Drive. So one of our recent trainings, we just moved everything over to Google Drive so that we can all work on lessons or work on language projects while working on the same document, instead of putting it on one person. And then of course also offering these Zoom classes, which did take a couple months for us to kind of figure that out, because I remember March 2019 being sent home from the office, first time ever teleworking here, and then figuring out what are we going to do. So it has been a slow transition at first, but I think it's gone really well since then. So definitely we've learned a lot of lessons from doing this. We did have to start with a small team, and since the pandemic, people have moved around. One of our main language learners and coworkers did move back to Sandpoint, Alaska in the Aleutians. So that was a learning experience for us, because she had worked here at APIA with us so long. But it also really opened up our ability to reach out to more community members out there. We did start with just a couple people. Nikkita and I've sometimes had to pull Nikkita into my lessons, even though she learns and teaches the Eastern dialect, but she catches on really fast. And then when we don't have certain people there, it can be difficult, because you always want to have kind of a partner with you if you're teaching new learners. Some of the things that we have learned is like I mentioned, a lot of the lessons that we created, from 2015 to 2018 were for people here right in front of you, grabbing these props, moving around. Oh, am I going there? Am I walking this way? Is that here? Is it there? Doesn't always come across exactly the same on Zoom. So we've had to find ways to fix that. Nikkita.
It was when we first started doing our lessons over Zoom, it was almost like having to write a whole different lesson to be able to teach it over Zoom. So it was almost like having to rewrite our whole lesson curriculum.
Yeah, and at first, a lot of them in our heads were we've done that lesson so many times, it'd be so easy. And then I would start doing a lesson with some new learners and realize I had no idea how to do it online. And so it has been a learning curve. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, we'll do that one next week. That'll be easy. And then I'll think about it more and I'll call in Nikkita and I'll like ask for advice. A lot of the lessons are similar for both dialects. So how have you been doing this? And we kind of been able to work from each other and steal ideas. But it does take a lot longer, it seems like, doing everything from different areas than it does in person, which I think a lot of people have seen over the last year. Used to be able to just be like, oh, here, come with me, let's figure this out. And now it's, a matter of coordinating. Do you have time? Let's get a meeting together. Sometimes internet connection is not always great. Trying to coordinate with people in the region when there's a storm, we're gonna have to wait a couple of days sometimes. So that has, had its hand on it and kind of makes us realize how much more work it is to do it this way. So we did reallocate some of that travel funding that was never used to bring on some more employees for like just some of the administrative things. So we hired an Unangam Tunuu administrative assistant along with an Unangam Tunuu mentor specialist who were able to work with full time as a fluent speaker. And then we brought on the admin assistant, which has taken a big burden off of me, who is a language learner, a language teacher, but also the project coordinator. So going with all the reporting and everything, I'm not always available. And we realized that a lot of people's schedules change, so we have had to make our schedules somewhat flexible. So I did try to make it as convenient for people. Some people work during the day, so trying to find times in the evening that work for others. We had a good amount of time working with some of our youth this summer, but of course now they're in school again and not as available as they were even during the beginning of the pandemic when some of the youth were doing school from home. They had more time to meet with us during the week, but now they're all really busy. They have sports, so we have lost some of that participation. And it does take a little bit of patience from switching from one medium to the other. And we have found that just some of the lessons all of our lessons we try to do just in language, but some of the lessons are not just super applicable to do over a screen. So there have been some lessons that I have just skipped over until we can meet in person again, or until the learners are fluent enough for me to be able to teach it to them with, some translations where it's not going to be detrimental for their learning. And also having someone who's been through that lesson before has been really helpful. So you're not just bringing in new people who have no idea what you're talking about. We do offer our lessons out there, but just try to make sure people know we only have so much capacity, and doing these things virtually too seem to take longer. And if you have too large of a group, you can sometimes, if not everyone's involved, it can get a little boring after a while. So you don't want to lose people's interest that way. Before I move on, do you wanted to add anything, Nikkita?
Two things. With the teaching a group over Zoom, I found that my limit is about 7 or 8 people. Darling and I haven't tried breakout rooms yet, but the thing with that is you have to have enough people that know enough of the lessons, are comfortable teaching enough of the lessons, knows how to teach over Zoom, which is a totally different thing than teaching in person. And if you are doing lessons over Zoom, please do not forget to record and make sure you know where those recordings are being saved. I know I've lost a couple of the recordings that I've done. I have no idea where they are, but they are a great resource for things like presentations, if you have an archive of your lessons going oh, this is how you run this one. But yeah, please do not forget to record if you are doing lessons like I do.
Yeah, and I also record the lessons. And some weeks, some of our learners aren't always available. So I try to send those out. So if someone missed a lesson, they have a chance to review it and watch it and be ready for the next week. So I know we've had some of our learners even take those home and teach them to their children, and that's been really helpful. Another lesson learned is you have to really work with your elders. A lot of our elders are not always going to have resources available. They may not have access to adequate internet. They might not know how to use the iPad you leave for them. So a lot of patience while working with them. We did allocate some of that travel money also to providing those resources to elders. So we did purchase iPads and tablets for speakers who work with us weekly, and one thing that was an issue is trying to find someone who can work with them at home to help them set it up. And I've done some sessions helping elders set up where they're calling me, and it takes a little while, but especially with some of our more vulnerable elders who aren't letting people visit, if you know someone in the household who can work with them and help them out, if there's any youth that can help them get set up, that's been really helpful for us. And then we have tried to work with people in the region, trying to see how we can help with internet costs, because streaming these Zooms can rack up their internet. And it hasn't provided to be the easiest always, depending on if, like in Alaska, it was easy because we could buy them Optimera cards, which are like for the Wi-Fi there. But if someone's running it from GCI, it's not always the easiest. We do provide stipends, though, for the elders that we work with for all the hours that they put into working with us. So that has seemed to help out a bit. And like I mentioned before, it does take more time to plan events, to work with people. If there's any technical issues, it makes the session last much longer. If someone drops off the internet, it's not so good. Or even it's just so easy to forget about these. We're all in Zoom meetings so often, and sometimes you just don't get everyone like you would like. And then one of the things that has been really nice, since we're not all together anymore with some of our language partners in St. Paul, in Sandpoint, Unalaska, Akitan, Atka, King Cove, we have switched over to using Google Drive for the Atka Dialect team. They're still using Dropbox for the St. Paul team because that's what's worked well for them with their internet usage. And making sure that everyone is communicating well and really able to continue to use the language as much as possible. We have reinstated some new things since the pandemic. Just here in 2021, every Monday at 3:30, we have a new conversation hour that we invite speakers and learners to come to, where we have like a prepared question, just like an everyday question. What did you do yesterday? What is your favorite season? What's your favorite thing to cook? And then people follow up. And what's nice is when we get fluent speakers in there, it gets learners a chance to hear the language used in a natural setting, which we don't get to hear here in Anchorage, really, with Unangam, Tunuu, and everyone being so far away. I did want to kind of screen share and show some of the ways that we are using our Google Drive here after, but I just want to give Nikkita a chance if I missed anything of how we've been really adapting to this virtual setting.
I don't think so. I think we can go over to the Google Drive.
Okay, so I was just going to share this here. So this is something new over the last year that we've been using. It was introduced to us last November from our language consultants. And so what we have here in the APIA office is a physical, what we call Fluency Freeway, which is our curriculum, where people can go and grab a lesson and do it in person right in front of you. Since switching to we can't have visitors here in the office, we have switched to a virtual version of that, where we're able to connect all of our lessons. So over here are the lessons titles here, and we have 166 lessons. Currently, some of them are not finalized. We are working with speakers. And one of the things that we used to always do is these were handwritten lessons, often handwritten by language interns over the last couple of years. So we are getting them into a type format, spell checking them with elders, and trying to really finalize them so that more people have access to them. And the one nice thing here is that we are able to see these lessons in the Google Drive here, and that's switched over correctly, should have. And we're able to see what lesson is in here, have it on our screen. Everyone can have access to it. And then this is a version of an older one that needs to be updated. Switching over, we have also started including in these like Zoom lesson teaching notes, so that people, like, after we've done them so many times, we know like this needs to be done this way. We're able to, like, in that last lesson, save a slideshow in here if it's going to be helpful for the lesson, or save pictures in here, and then use that screen share option to make it more obvious for our learners to learn. Nikkita, on the other hand, with her team, they use Dropbox, which is we've been using for several years, but just recently this has been a transition for us, and getting a lot of our language interns in here, updating it, working as a team, and really working together. One of our major team players recently had a baby over the summer, so we had some, that life happens and you lose some people for a while, but it seems like all the language learners really come back. Another one of our interns who worked with us all summer is back in school, so there has been some hiccups, but overall it's been a different transition, but we have definitely learned from it. Nikkita, did you want to share any more about any of what your team's been doing? And we do, like, as dialects, try to collaborate with the same language, but we don't always have the chances to work together like we'd like to.
Can't really think of anything to add. I mean, I run lessons 2 times a week, one more advanced and one more beginner. Lesson times throughout the week. Hunt every other week with the St. Paul team. I talk to them every week when we get together and plan our hunts, to, like, get new language to make more lessons. The people that I work with here in Anchorage on the Eastern Dialect team, 2 are currently in school. One's in high school, one's in college. Haven't really had much of a chance to steal Darling away for any of my lessons or activities recently, but I do join quite a bit of Darlings, just so she can have person to model the conversation with.
Yeah, and so that has been, having people kind of transition at the same time has been really helpful. I'm trying to think of anything else. One of the things I think is similar for a lot of people over the last couple of years is that we are losing a lot of our elders, and some of them we just aren't able to work with the way we want to. Some of our elders are suffering with dementia, so trying to get them to learn this whole new thing out of nowhere has not been an easy transition. Thankfully, some of our elders are really patient with us, and one of the things is, if you are working with elders, like, give them a phone call, send them a Facebook message, give them like several reminders, because it's so easy just for time to get lost. And if you're like, oh, are they showing up, reach out to them and make sure that they know, if they need help logging on, tell them, oh, we can work with you a couple minutes early. I can call you over the phone and walk you through it, or even, printing out like step-by-step directions for them can really be helpful to make sure that runs smoothly over doing it online. And we're really hoping, to work together in person as soon as possible, but especially with our elders, trying to keep them safe has been a priority. I think we can go to the next slide just for, we can move on to questions.
Brianna, Darling, and Nikkita, there were a couple comments and questions, and I will ask them in order. One comment was in the beginning was having an agenda really helps. So I am thinking that you agree.
Agenda does really help. When we were in person, we had an agenda where we start with introductions. We do like an icebreaker, a song, then go into lessons, go into a song at the end of it, and then do like plus deltas at the end. That has changed because we realized it's really hard for everyone to sing at the same time over Zoom with the delay. So sometimes we will have like a recording with people to sing to along to, and then like some of those icebreakers we haven't really been able to do. But like especially when we have our trainings and stuff, having that agenda schedule has been really helpful. And if you're doing any type of language training online, taking like a lot of breaks because it's so easy to get like fatigued from looking at the screen for so long.
Thank you. Here's a question. Did any participants who were able to attend in-person classes have to drop out when classes went viral? The second question was, were there any other challenges for participants in virtual learning, such as distractions at home, children needing care or attention?
We have had some people, come on and off. Of course, everyone has life activities. Like a couple of our elders, we didn't hear from a while because we didn't realize that they lost access to internet, which can be challenging. And then they didn't have a phone number for us to reach out to them on. Some people in the region I know don't always have access to the best internet, so that has been a challenge. We do try to give people an option to call in. We do need to make an update to our like Zoom plan so that there is a free 1-800 number for people to call into, because if people are calling in from landlines into some of the Zoom numbers, they're not like they're collect calls. So that is something we have learned that we need to work on. And I'm trying to think, Nikkita, there are some people, like I know we've invited some like, especially younger kids, we haven't had as much participation from them. But that's a matter of like getting the parents involved too.
Here's a comment. We and it's from Tony. We also purchased iPads for participants and got some feedback that some were having problems using Google Drive that it isn't necessarily accessed with iPads. And now we are requesting HPs or PCs in future purchasing. I don't know if others have experienced that issue because of all of our materials is on Google Drive.
I've never tried. So like most of the people using iPads and other things like that are like elders who we don't put any of this workload of like editing lessons or having access to the Google Drive on our elders. I don't know about, because I know like even during our last teacher training, we were talking about like this isn't going to come across super easy on an iPad. It's more ideal, or like if someone's using their phone, it's more ideal to use it on like a computer. So I haven't actually even tried it on an iPad. I don't know if you have, Nikkita.
It is not the easiest. Because you have to switch between the Drive app and either docs, sheets, presentations. It doesn't open as nicely as it does on a computer.
Yeah, and even with Dropbox, we never really use the iPads for that. I'm trying to think if anyone else. I know Marjorie was using an iPad for at one point, and it didn't seem to be, yeah, it's not as user-friendly as using it on your desktop.
Will this recording be available to send to other native language departments if they aren't able to attend today? The answer is yes. It will take a while to make sure it's compliant, and it should be available on the ANA website. And somebody can correct me if I'm mistaken. The next question is, how many are on your team total?
How many people? So here in our Anchorage office, we have, well, 4 working in the office. We have 5 interns who, we have an intern in Unalaska, an intern in Sandpoint, 3 interns here in Anchorage, hopefully 4 here soon. But then that also we partner with the team in St. Paul, which is a group of 3. Sorry, I'm trying to total this up. And then we have, and that's not including speakers. I mean, it's roughly usually like between 15 to 20 people. That's like kind of what we consider like our core team that we work with consistently, and like some people are available during different times. We do usually have a lot of participation from like college students who, depending on their semester or quarter system, are available sometimes of the year and then not others. So it does fluctuate, but between 15 and 20, including like language learners and speakers that we work with year round.
Okay, 2 questions. Have you also developed an assessment program to measure fluency over time? The other one is, what kinds of learning resource materials have you developed, such as storybooks, workbook, activity books in the native language?
So we are currently, so there is like a ACTFL, American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages self-assessment that we have used since like 2015 that it's just a self-assessment of like, can I do this? And we have tried recording that. I know in St. Paul they have. One of the other parts of this grant was creating an oral proficiency interview. So we did get a training in beginning of 2020, I think February 2020, yeah, on the creating an OPI, how is an OPI or proficiency interview done in English, and then what does that look like for our language. And so we are still in the developing process of that. We do have like a list of questions for different topics that speakers can ask a learner. And that's actually one of the things that conversation hour kind of came out of, was creating kind of a more natural instead of scripted time for what kind of questions can be asked that a speaker can ask a learner, and how would they kind of assess what their fluency level is, and where is there the floor and the ceiling for their ability to speak the language. So those are the 2 that we've been using. It's a matter, one of the biggest thing is getting fluent speakers to understand what the different levels of fluency really mean. So we have been trying to get, like Sally Switzoff has gotten really well at understanding it, getting Moses Sturks. Thing is, we don't have someone in the Eastern dialect yet that can do one of those fluency assessments. And then as far as learning resources, is we have some of the resources like are these recordings. We have the lessons that we've created over the last 6 years or so. And then we try to share a lot of the resources that have already been created, like the books, how we talk or the way we talk in the Pribilofs, or how the Atkins talk. We try to make also the Aleut dictionary available. There's an online PDF version, but that is out of print, out of stock, very hard to get your hands on now. And we're actually trying to help work on a 3rd edition. And then there are resources and like some storybooks that we are trying to like create digital stories out of, from some Aleut tales and narratives that I've been working on. And then we have some workbook activities that were created prior from a really old ANA grant that we try to give to like our Head Starts and our schools in the region. But most of like our learning resource materials have been like from our curriculum. Did I miss anything, Nikkita?
We do have the bilingual ed books that were done in the 70s, I think through UAF. We still have those for both dialects as well. They make good listening pieces, even though like sometimes they may not be completely grammatically correct.
And we do have some of those, with videos on like our Vimeo page with the elders reading them. And like the video I was working on was like in the language, but with English subtitles.
For pre-planning lessons that you have archived, how have you gone about deciding the material for lessons?
So the way that it's set up like already on our curriculum is we just kind of go in order. When I first started, I actually just picked and chose like lessons that were super easy to do over Zoom. And then just recording them to the Zoom cloud. And those were like, oh, what is your name? What is my name? What is their name? Where are you from? Where do you live? And those are super easy because it doesn't require moving around props or anything. So when I first started doing these lessons over Zoom, I was picking and choosing lessons that were just like, this is going to be easy to do this way. And then since then, figuring out how to do them. And right now, like my archive of lessons is just kept in the Zoom cloud recordings. And I eventually plan on like downloading them and keeping them for our archive. But just right now, like having them in Zoom is the easiest way to make them like shareable and accessible to our learners with the links and passwords. I think it's pretty similar for Nikkita.
Yeah, though the way you started, darling, sounds a lot easier than what I did because I started at what is that and worked my way through the entire freeway lesson by lesson. And if it didn't work, it didn't work.
Great. And what is your plan for sustaining the program after the final year if there's no additional ANA funding?
So we have thankfully had a lot of support from the Aleutian Corporation. They usually do donate to our language program annually. And then for things like travel for the language program, the Aleutian Foundation has been really helpful with providing travel scholarships for language learners, similar to what they do for the culture camps. And then other organizations like Aleutian Pribilof Islands Community Development Association has also been really supportive in helping to support language interns. And then we also do try and, when other funds aren't available, sometimes bring in funds from the Unangam Heritage Association. So those are kind of like our primary fallback. But of course, we are, like as most everyone else, nonprofit, and we'll be looking at grants. And hopefully, we haven't gone after a ANUP grant yet with our program, but we're looking at possibly doing that in the future as well.
And this comment came from Ugalisak. For your information, I had worked with iPads and Google Drive with tribal councils. We installed the app and sometimes had to set up Google email accounts, which requires more steps, testing and coordinating and saving passwords. Do you have that same experience? We haven't had anyone with iPads had to use the Google Drive too much. The iPads are primarily for using the Zoom. But we did like learn, like at one point we had iPads that our IT had set up, and then everything is through theirs. And like one of the things was trying to help. Yeah, it was kind of hard to get elders to figure out that they needed to set up their own iTunes or Apple account,
and try to have it all under their information on the iPads we give them, so that like when like one of our speakers, Teresa, like it would say Fred's iPad, and we like got that figured out so that we know who was on there. But thankfully, we like with the iPads, we haven't had to use them specifically for the Google Drive.
There's about 3 more. Is there an advisory group that provides guidance regarding the program?
So we do have an Unangam Tunuu advisory committee that meets monthly. We haven't had a huge amount of participation. Like it depends on the time of year. Like right now, or in the summertime when a lot of people are doing subsistence activities, sometimes we don't get everyone. Right now, we've had pretty good participation, but then come December and then January with Russian Orthodox holidays, we have a little bit less activity as well. But we do reach out to the our advisory committee for guidance. Yeah.
Okay. Has ANA been giving support on the reporting progress with the outcome changes of your language project in regards to the pandemic?
ANA has been really supportive. We have had to do, of course, a carryover from year 1 and year 2. And they've been really flexible because just like a lot of other people, things have changed because of the pandemic. But thankfully, a lot of our like project outcomes are still happening with people's learning, working together. These trainings being switched to virtual training, so those like are still happening. It's just that we have brought on just some more staff from that travel funding to help implement these trainings and gatherings. But thankfully, we haven't had to do any like major changes, and we're just hoping to be able to complete some in-person activities if we have to carry over into a 4th year.
Thank you. And this is a comment, and the last one. I have to leave, and this is from Eli, but this was wonderful, and I wanted to thank you for spending your time today for this presentation. So those are our questions and comments. Go
I
ahead.
think we might have missed one about mainly using the where your keys method. It just says, have you mainly used where your keys as your method of second language acquisition? Do you use other methods? Was there support from the where your keys community for learning, teaching virtually? How successful virtual classes for beginner learners? And we do primarily use where your keys. I know like in person, Nikkita has used TPR, and we do even have like an early like what is that? The gray morning. Which one am I thinking of? Nikkita, the gray
morning.
Like an early version of that for the Eastern dialect. But we have like I learned through the where your keys method, and so is Nikkita. But we also try to encourage people that like there's so many methods out there to partner them, see what works with each other. We also have been working, like Haley Hanna-Stefatin is teaching elementary Unangam Tunuu through UAA, finding ways we can partner with each other. And there has been support from Where Your Keys. We do like a couple of the consultants, we meet weekly, and then they're the ones that help us with our trainings in the spring and fall. And of course, they've been in Canada, so they haven't been able to actually travel here since 2019. And the classes have been pretty successful for beginner learners, and it is just like one of the things we try to do with new people is like if they have never done the Where Your Keys method with us in person and they don't know anything about it, we try to set up a meeting one-on-one to try and explain that, or do some of the early messages like really just in a small group so that they're not thrown off or like pulled into something they've never done before.
Great comment, and it's from Anicia Chuqudakuchax from Unalaska. She would like to have a weekly language class out there. So she's with the tribe, and if you guys can connect with her, I'm sure this week you can find her. So please make that connection.
Yeah, I'm going to put my email in the chat real quick. So if anyone wants to reach out to me via email, I'm welcome to setting up any language lessons.
Great.
Carolyn, you misspelled our web address.
Oh, oops, thank you.
And for the rest of you, you guys need to reach out to them, but don't know how, reach out to one of us and we can make the connection. We do have an evaluation, I believe. Can you put that up on the chat? Great. It's 2 after 11, so I wanted to thank all of you guys for attending, and especially our presenters, Darlene and Nikkita, for sharing what's happening with APAI and the communities in your region. Thanks, everyone.